Good afternoon. This is Roski Mascani, and I have a wonderful guest on the phone. And I'm honored to interview Mr. Bobby, the host of the Savey Fuller Show, and in my opinion, the most needed broadcast in the world. Mr. Bobby is the host of at least one other show that I think I heard him talk about, and maybe more. Welcome, Mr. Bobby. How are you doing today?
Still learning, my brother.
Okay. Can you tell us more about yourself and the other show or shows that you host?
I'll do the best I can. The name of the show that I host with Mr. Neely Fuller is called the Counter-Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller. I am the co-host of that show. But basically his show. He wrote a book called The Compensatory Concept, which deals with white supremacy, racism. And we let him discuss it. We take calls from all over the United States and all around the world, and he takes the time to answer the individual's calls. And as usual, we're all lined up or jammed up, but it's interesting to be able to help people to come into the knowledge of what white supremacy is and how it works. And it is my opinion that most people don't know that, but as they begin to listen to the show, then it begins to come clear to them if they apply themselves. We also, Neely Fuller and I did another show on Talktainment Radio, and it was just simply called The Compensatory Concept. And again, we got all kind of calls on all kind of things that, in regard to that, trying to awaken people's minds as to what has happened to us as black people and what we can do to counter the what has been done to us or the dominance of white supremacy. And, of course, I've been in radio for about 51 years. 51 years. I just celebrated my 51st. This is my 51st year in radio and television. I've done some college sports. I've done some high school sports. And worked at a few, or employed at a few radio stations here locally. And that's probably about it.
Okay, so is there, I know I used to listen to the Neely Fuller Show, the Compensatory Concept, on Talktainment.
Yes.
So I know you had at least one other show on there. Is that true?
Yes, I had a show called Point West. Now, it didn't last that long, but I dealt with a guy by the name of Dr. Randy Short. He was well known, or is well known, all around the world. A lot of his materials is on YouTube, as Neely Fuller's is also on YouTube today. And we had a few shows that we would do, and that was pretty interesting. Mm-hmm.
And what about a sports show? I think you had a sports show.
Yeah, we did have one. We had one called Talking Sports with Mr. Bobby. I had a couple of good co-hosts with that, and we would discuss the latest sports issues. Now, as you know, everything is instant now, but what we would do, we had a way of taking a story and developing the story from the perspective that since it was late, let's get some other stuff that maybe people don't know. So rather than spending 2 or 3 minutes on it, like we wouldn't give like a baseball score, the Yankees beat the Dodgers 3-2. We would go under the stuff to find little things that we thought would be interesting that people would like. And we would get calls on that also, and letters or emails, and people seem to like that show also. Mm-hmm.
Okay, well that's interesting. So, I want to ask you a little bit more about sports.
Okay.
Now, I used to play college basketball. I played at Washington State and Long Beach State back in the mid to late 80s. And I've never come across, things being kind of fishy about sports. Mm-hmm. But as time moved on, I started learning that things are not the way they seem to be, legitimate. I'll give you an example. The Super Bowl that featured Seattle and I think the Patriots, and Seattle had the ball down on the 2-yard line.
Yes.
And the player, I can't even think of his name. I know he was beast mode.
Oh, yeah, Marshawn Lynch.
Marshawn Lynch. He got his team to that goal line, but for some reason they ran a play and threw an interception and lost the game when they could have won the game. And I thought that was something that could have been fixed. So do you think that some of these sports events are scripted or what?
My brother, to be honest with you, which I have to be honest, everything that you see and don't see is fixed. There's an angle to it. Somebody wants to get control of it, and it all centers around money. And how do we get this money? And how can we trick the people to believing something that's not real? But most people don't get it because of passion, the way that things are marketed, the way things are written about. They're in that mode where they serve as what's going on now, distractions. And while you're being distracted on this thing over here, somebody is raking in the money that you don't see. And so your assessment of what you saw something that was suspicious to you, concerning that game, that Super Bowl. And now I can't say for sure because these people are well hidden in doing things like that, so you won't see, because they have to make the games seem like they are real, or else you're not going to play, or in this case, a lot of people gambled on it. That's why they have lines and so forth. And there's some good information by the name of Michael Francis. He used to be a mafia boss, kingpin, but he got off of it. And all of his information is on YouTube. Excellent speaker. I would even like to have him on a show that I do. But he goes into depths of how they control everything and what they do. But most people don't see things like that because we don't understand how things work. As a matter of fact, we don't even understand understanding, because understanding is thought. And thought has 4 components, but we've only been taught one, which is the understanding part. But there's another component directly opposite, which is overstand. And then there are 2 other parts to it, inner stand and outer stand. But we concentrate on just that one part, understand. And we don't even understand that because we usually leave out those other components. What I'm trying to say is, my brother, is that we were here by the Creator as being balanced. But see, we're perverted or obtuse. We're out of balance thinking that we are balanced because we just been in this one area. But once you begin to loose yourself from all the things that we've been taught and begin your quest to search for the truth, then you start to get in touch with the creative side of you, or who you really are, and how Yahweh, the Creator, made you to be balanced in life, and then you begin to see how things really are.
Okay, well, I've never heard that before, and then it's one other person that I heard say Innerspan, and that was Dr. Phil Valentine. Mm-hmm. He was the only person I heard to say Innerspan, and I could have heard some other people, but I remember him saying that.
Yes.
And I need to really get some literature on that.
Yes.
Because I got to learn that. I got to see the totality. See, I'm a math teacher.
Okay.
So I think logical. That's why I closely reflect to what Neely Fuller be talking about, because he used basic logic. and that's how I see things logically.
Right. Exactly.
So,
exactly.
yeah. So wow, that's awesome. Okay. Now here's a question for you.
Okay.
In my opinion, Neely Fuller is one of the best international personalities of the 20th and 21st century, and very humble of not, focusing on himself, but the task of eliminating the system of white supremacy racism. Mr. Bobby, what are your views of Mr. Fuller and his works?
Well, I think that being associated with Mr. Fuller, even though I am a facilitator on the show, I'm still learning also. And even though I do the interviews and speak to the people and speak with him, one thing about Neely Fuller and myself, we never rehearse or go over the show what we're going to say. We let it be as it is, full of mistakes. If it's going to be full of mistakes, if it's good, fine. If it's not good, we take it all in, and we strive for that balance to awaken people to what they really are, to what's really going on, because we have been taught, even through schools, through the educational system, by what this racist white supremacist regime has done. And it's a global thing. It's a global criminal thing that they have done into all areas of life, or all human activity. It's the same type of pattern, but people don't see that because they get stuck into one pattern. For example, redlining. Now, you ask some people what that is, and they don't know. I didn't know for a long time until I found out what it was, where we couldn't go into certain neighborhoods and all that kind of stuff because it was redlined. If we went across a certain area, then people attacked us or didn't want us there and put up signs. And I saw this pattern all throughout the United States when I was going to Iowa State University. I started doing a geological study of different neighborhoods and of different cities, and I saw the same pattern all throughout the United States. The same pattern. See, somebody was in control of that. Long before you were born, you take the freeway system. I noticed that in a lot of so-called urban areas, the access to getting into those areas, they took our houses away and put a freeway in. And then they could come in anytime they wanted to with the military, or National Guard, if they wanted to, and cordon us. And we were it. They've done this. Most areas in most major cities go through what they call so-called black areas for quick access to that. And I wondered, well, why is that? Because that's the way they wanted to do that. And even deeper than that, if you want to go deep into the rabbit hole. Now, some people say that this doesn't exist, but I will just say this, that there's a thing called the King Alfred Plan. If you don't know what that is, okay, you must be familiar with it. Yeah, a lot of people don't even know that because it's not discussed. It's not discussed, and so they don't think about it. But they have this thing set up that at any time they can come in and cordon us off, that any time that they want to. Anytime. But anyway, I saw the pattern going on. So what being with Mr. Fuller has done has opened up my eyes to this same pattern that is not right, that is anti-black in all areas of people activity. Every single area you see the same dominating thing. And distractions keep us from pinpointing that. Now, the people at the top, you won't see that. Now, in my opinion, after seeing that, it made me look at the dollar bill, for example, to see that pyramid and how it is broken. Symbolic of they have put us on this pyramid, but if you notice, the pyramid is broken. Why? Because it's only those at the top that get the money, because that's the object of the game, money. They get the money where everybody else doesn't get anything and is forced to deal with different distractions so that money can keep going in without your knowledge. Even in education, you can break down almost any area of education, and you only get half truth if you get that much. For example, you may have heard this. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. I'm listening.
You may have got this, but just about everybody knows what the Emancipation Proclamation is and what Lincoln did and all that stuff. Okay, yeah. or allegedly done. Okay, there's many different areas in that, but anyway, we all heard about that. Okay, but what we didn't know, and I found this out a few years ago, but there was another component to that. We heard about the Emancipation Proclamation, but what we didn't hear, and we heard about the 40 acres in a mule. Okay, we heard that. I don't know if anybody got that, but here's what we didn't get. There was a little caveat to that 40 acres and a mule, which was this. You would get that, yes. Yeah, you were going to get that here's the caveat, if you left the country.
Oh, Lord.
A lot of people didn't know that. I didn't know that. I was shocked. So I'm a researcher also, so I began to research this and found this out. And then so where were the blacks going to go? Released into a market economy with no skills, no nothing, but released. So because they were released under what Lincoln did, then the white share owners or whatever, not sharecroppers, but the white plantation owners got mad, went to Washington, D.C., and came up with this. Are you ready? Are you sitting down? And you may know about this, but if you don't, and I didn't, but I do now, called the Compensated Emancipation Act, which indicated this, that the white landowners or owners or whatever got $300 per slave because of lost compensation. In other words, they got paid. They got compensated for that loss. And I didn't know that.
Well, I'm like you say, still learning, and see, I'm a Black Studies major.
Yeah,
I should have known some of this stuff. But
well, that's okay because see, that's why we're still learning, and see, and then I always try to deal from evidence or facts that can be proven. That's why I'm throwing this out so that if people are listening, they can go and look at that, and they might discover more than I have. But anyway, with that Emancipation Act, Compensated Emancipation Act, that I didn't know that was there. I didn't even know it was there until I looked it up and researched it, and I said, wow, why didn't we know about this? Because they didn't want us to know, they being the white supremacists. They didn't want us to know. So they kept that from us. You heard about the Emancipation Proclamation. You heard about the Emancipation, but you didn't hear about the rest of it. And then, of course, Andrew Johnson killed everything after Lincoln was murdered. They call it assassination, but anyway, he was murdered. That's just one of the many areas, because this goes on in any area. For example, the dividing of the African continent. You heard of the Congo Conference, haven't you?
I heard of the what conference?
Well, what they did, the white Europeans, and by the way, not all white people are racist. Let's get that out right now. But they could be suspected that they could be, but not all of them are. But anyway, under Bismarck, the German general, they decided that they would divide up the African continents, and they did.
Yeah, it was another it was, I don't know if it's
in 1884. Anyway, well, it can go by the Congo Conference, but there are several other names of it. The other name escapes me by now. But if you look under the Congo Conference, it'll be under of 1884-85.
Yeah, I know about the partition of Africa.
See, a lot of people didn't know that. But that's what they did. And my question is, who gave them the right to do that kind of thing? See, but they did that. They did that. But anyway, there's so many areas that we could, go into. And there's a good book that helps people understand that, called The Destruction of the Black Civilization by Chancellor Williams.
Chancellor Williams, yes.
A very good book that explains a lot of different things that shows us how great of a people that we are. And then, of course, the Bible, yes, I said the Bible, yes, that was written by King James, and he was black, but he's been portrayed as being white. But King James, yes, was black back in 1611, and this is what really gets people messed up. Now people talk about Jesus, right? And I certainly have too. Yeah. Okay, but this is what I found out, that he was never called Jesus, never. And so that just messed me up for years. That messed me up. But I wanted to know what his name was, and this was even before I met Mr. Fuller. And when I started studying and looking at what the Jewish scholars and what God's name was, because I thought God was God's name, I found that was a title. His name is Yahweh, spelled Y-H-W-H. The A and another E was added in so you can get Yahweh. That was his name. But the name of his son, which they called Jesus, was Yahshua. Which means
I get that from a lot of Christians that don't use they say Jesus too, but they say the real name is Yahshua.
Yeah. But see how they poison our minds to keep us in slavery. Well, and I say for me was all the photos I saw was of a white man with a long hair and blue eyes and all that. That was Jesus. That's the image. Even now it's still in my mind, but that's not him. When I looked at Revelation chapter 1, verses 13 through 15, and got a description of what the Savior looked like. Black. Yeah, hair of wool, skin of brass and all that, eyes of fire. And I said, why would they make him white? Why would they make him white? And they did, and we worshiped that. We didn't know. We did not know. And so that poisons our mind into an attitude of being subservient, and we're not supposed to be subservient. But now I even took it a little further than that, and I hope I'm not being long in my explanation. You can cut me off at any time. Okay,
go ahead.
I took it even further than that. I went back and found out, because I said they're telling lies in so many areas. They being the white supremacists, telling lies in so many areas. When I went back to the Bible, I found out that there are more than 66 books. There are actually 88 books of the Bible. And I found the so-called missing 22 books of the Apocrypha. I found them and have read all of them except for one. I've read 21 books. And different information, like the book of Enoch. There are 3 books of Enoch that go into detail about the angels that were kicked out of the wars in heaven, how they got kicked out and came down. God kicked them out, and they came down to the earth. And at that particular time, the earth was populated with people then. And they had the angels that were kicked out had sex with the women, and they messed up the DNA that God had given man with the creation of Adam, messed that up and came up with a hybrid people, which are called the Nephilim. The Nephilim, I think, is the name of that. Giants, in other words. Giants. Okay. And there are remnants of that old civilization over in, I think it's Iraq right now. There are still remnants of that. Yeah, anyway, of them and different kind of things that they did. All over the world, there are remnants of different types of things that have been set forth. But somebody wanted control of that, and especially when it comes down to religion. That's what they want to do. They want to be dominant. White nationalism wants to be dominant in every area of human activity to make it look like, in this case, religion, mimic what God is supposed to be all about, changing his color from black to white so that it can be worshipped, and then forcing that on us. And because we don't read and understand, according to the Bible, Hosea 4:6, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, we went along with it and used black preachers and all that kind of stuff. But you can still see how this goes on, how there is no respect, and how they are still killing people. You think that this stuff that just happened with Floyd and Taylor, there's been many of black people, little Emmett Till. What about the untold stories? What about sundown towns? You had to get out of town if you were black, or else you would get killed. Why? You ask yourself why. Because that's the way that they wanted it.
Yeah, you know what? I kind of, I grew up in Compton.
Okay.
And we always been labeled, we had negative connotations due to we were a black city at one point. Now it's mostly Hispanic. As a matter of fact, I teach in Compton. But, there was plenty of drive-by shootings at one point in our, in our town and in L.A. And I've always wondered, was that really, all of those shootings, was it really, the gangbangers? I've always wondered that. And I was thinking it could have been, the white supremacists, and then pin it on black people.
Brother, you're not wrong because, see, this old saying, there's two sides to every story. You've heard that, haven't you? Okay. Yeah. Do not, from this day forward, do not believe that, and I'll tell you why. Because the white supremacists, they play all sides. See, they're more than whatever side that they can get in to take advantage of, they will do. Even putting the two sides against each other, or the same people against each other, because they're very crafty, very skilled in doing that. They call it protect and serve in the so-called police departments. See, and I'm going to tell you something a lot of people don't understand since I'm in there right now. See, there's no such thing as police brutality. Yes, I just said that. Now, what do I mean by that? A police officer, and notice I said officer, would not do the things that have been portrayed. What you see, like the officer, I forget his name, that had his knee on George Floyd's neck. Right, okay. He is a suspected race soldier. See, race soldiers have infiltrated police departments all across the United States. And because they have done that, you cannot tell when an officer comes what that officer is, but how you can tell is by their actions. Their actions are the evidence of what they really are. See, a police officer would not have done that, but a suspected race soldier would do that. And now you got the Proud Boys, and I wrote something about that today, especially when their leader told them to stand back and stand by, which is an order. And I said, well, who makes up the police boys? And it is my conclusion now, I don't have definitive proof, but to be like that and looking like a military organization, in my opinion, and this is only mine, and I can't prove this, I want to make that very clear, but they could be suspected race soldiers that are in the so-called Proud Boys that have got the order from POTUS to stand by and stand back, stand back or stand by, whatever. Wait in a military response to do whatever is needed to do. In this case, to mess up the election and so forth. But it's not going to work, and I can tell you why a little later. But that's not going to work. But anyway, the whole thing is so messed up and so convoluted in many, many areas, no matter which way you go. Sort of like the Matrix, when Lawrence Fishburne's character asked Morpheus, wanted to know, do you want to know how far this rabbit hole goes?
Yeah. I mean, it's something. Okay, I'm gonna move on to the next question. Okay. I contacted you about information related to the COVID-19.
Yes.
And you sent me 3 pieces of information.
Yes.
I appreciate you sharing that information. The novel by Dean Koontz.
Yeah,
Koontz, I think.
Yeah.
And the CARES Act, HR 748. And I searched for the YouTube video
of Dr. Martin. Yeah, David Martin.
Yes, so-called coronavirus.
Yes.
And I couldn't find it. You know, I looked and looked, and I couldn't find it. And maybe it's been removed. I don't know. Maybe.
You know what? That's a good point. It could have been, yes. See, there are people that don't want you to know the truth. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm interrupting. I'm sorry.
Well, okay. Well, the last part is, can you speak about this information?
I can only speak what I've only researched. Now, I did see the 7-minute video by Dr. David Martin, and he brought up a lot of points about that. He even touched on the book that Dean Koontz wrote back in 1981 about how it went about and how it was proposed and come up with. And there are a lot of people that are involved in it, very prominent people, that a U.S. patent was taken out on that. Now, why would you get a patent on that? Why would a person do that? Well, the obvious reason is to make money and be the first dibs, get the first dibs on that. I think it's 7 to 10 years that if you do this thing, that you're the only one that could make it or produce it. Then after that, there is fair game. Something to that effect. It may not be those exact words. But anyway, the whole idea was to make money. But anyway, Dr. Martin indicated this is a man-made drug. There's been a lot of people that have been killed behind this, particularly when it was finally dropped. But one of the things that got me was H.R. 748. Did you see the date when that was proposed?
Yeah, it was. I looked at that, and it was in 2019. Yes.
Thank you. See, now you read that, and the first thing that happened when I said that. Wait a minute. If this was done in 2019, but it didn't come about until March of 2020, that means that this whole thing was planned. It's not what they call it, a pandemic. It's a plandemic, P-L-A-N, planned. They planned this whole thing, what they were going to do, and all the people involved in that. I'm glad that you said that, because that's what I saw too. I said, how can it be a year and 2 months they did this? Republicans, so to speak, and Democrats was all in on that, you see. Yeah. But it was made to look like it is, real and all that kind of stuff, to scare people and to do things for what? Global domination. Why? Because that's the way they want it to be. And so they're executing it with collateral damage, all these deaths and so forth. See, you have to play it out to make it look like it's real. That's why I don't believe in Hollywood, because Hollywood does make believe. Make it so that it's real. Make it look real, but it's not real. But they make it look like that so that what? You can believe that. It's the same trick that was played on the first woman. I guess her name was Eve, but anyway, the first woman, Mother Eve. Deception. And deception permeates all out the universe. And that is not how the Creator, Yahweh, wanted it to be. I mean, what we are supposed to be. We're supposed to be balanced and equal. But somebody, and using white supremacy, which is a spirit from the adversary, on assignment to do all this thing, and you can't just focus in on one area, because it's in every single, as Neely Fuller said, people activity. Everywhere. It's all there.
Yeah, I've been talking to a few people lately, and I've been asked, I've kind of made a comment. I said, how do you figure that a few individuals or groups of people can control billions of people? And I said, you have to be able to manipulate their mind and deceive them in order to have this type of control.
Right.
And of course, bombs and guns and all of that, but to have everybody's mind to the point where they really think that everything is what they say it is. So it's something.
Right.
Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting.
Even with me, I had to divorce myself from myself in terms of whatever I was taught in school and in college and all that kind of stuff. They tried to make me believe that I came from monkeys. We came from monkeys and all kind of things. You asked a question earlier about sports and stuff. See, I didn't see all that. I did not understand until I wanted Yahweh to teach me, because everything I learned in books and so forth, or mostly everything, it was a lie to get my thoughts going on in different places and all that kind of stuff. Like even I'll even go down to this, and I still don't even understand this, but I'll even go down to, and I call it this: the assassination of Nipsey Hussle and the assassination of Dr. Savey. I want to know what's going on with that. A lot of people think that Nipsey was killed. Well, at first I did, but I've been doing a little stuff on that. I didn't know the brother was that deep in what he was trying to do. And I don't know if this brother that allegedly killed him, who was behind this? Did he act alone? Was he just because his woman liked Nipsey? You know, is that the story that they're putting out? You know,
well, I don't live far from where it supposedly happened.
Yeah.
And I just don't know how real all of this stuff is. And then I did hear about him wanting to work with the community and and do some things with the police. Yes. And then he come up dead. It's suspicious, isn't it? Very. And then Dr. Savey. Yeah. I deal with a affiliate of Dr. Savey's. Yes. He's younger. Of course, he was much younger than him. But, I get a lot of stories, I tell you. I get a lot of stories, and then it's like, what is true? Right. And see, and this is what the racists use, or this is what the devil, if you will, uses, like he did on the first woman, I guess her name was Eve, to send about confusion. He's the author of confusion, to make you question, make you question that. So, Dr. Savey, and he had evidence, he had proof that he cured AIDS. He had, I think it was, and don't quote me on this, but he had a number of people that were going to go as witnesses when they took him to trial. And I understand he beat it in Supreme Court that he could do this. But Big Pharma did not want that information out and try to suppress it. Because why? They make billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars off of that. Yeah. Everybody just about is on some type of medication. Why? Why? Yeah. When if you look in the book of Revelations, chapter I think it's chapter 22, verse 2. I think it is. Don't quote me on that. But this is what God said. He said the leaves and the trees are for the healing of the nations. Right there. Yeah, in other words, the herbs and so forth. Yeah. See, when I was coming up, they used to call these people quacks, or there was another name they called them witch doctors. But they knew the roots and what kind of plants and vegetables to use that could kill you. I mean, that could cure you of different ailments you have. But the medical community got in there and decided that we're going to put people on prescription medication. So it might do this, cure this, but it might cause other things to happen to you. Why? Because the bottom line is money. And what does the Bible say about that? It says the love of money is the root of all evil. And it is. So let me share something with you. Yes, sir. I was talking to one of my coworkers the other day, and I said, if money is the value, the humans devalue. And then also I do herbs. I don't take medication. Take medication. In 2014, I had a full body cleanse. And when I went to the doctor before I did that, I had high cholesterol, and the numbers went down exceptionally. I mean, better than ever. Right. And then also, since 2014, I did pick some weight back up, because I was at 256. Now I'm at about 246. And I went down to 220 in weight. But, I did a cleanse, so I wasn't eating too much. I was, doing the herbs and raw fruits and vegetables. So only time I go to the doctor to see if my numbers,
yeah, what your numbers are. Well, see, what you just go ahead.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
One more thing, and then I'm gonna let you get back to it because I'm enjoying this. And then I went to the doctor a few years later, and supposedly my prostate numbers had went up.
Mm-hmm.
Went up to about an 8 something, because it's supposed to be 4 something, no more than about 4,
yeah,
whatever. And so what I did immediately when my doctor told me that, I called my herb doctor. I went to my herb doctor.
Okay.
And basically he said, man, all you got to do is do a cleanse. He said, don't worry about that, do a cleanse. And so I wasn't able to access him for the for the herbs and stuff. So I went to another place. I did a cleanse.
Yes.
It was a different type of cleanse. And then I also did like a prostate herb that I had got some information from another herb guy. When I did both of those things, I went back to the doctor and I said, okay, well, let's do that test again. Numbers was right back down.
Right. See, when the scriptures talk about, when Yahweh said that the leaves and the trees, yeah, I think it is Revelation 22, the last line, the leaves and the trees are for the healing of the nations. See, there are healing properties in natural foods, but especially with the rise of the industrial age, they went away from the natural things into synthetics, plastics, and all kind of chemicals and things like that, and made everybody chemical dependent. And see, we're getting that way now, intelligent enough to start doing our own research and start going back to the natural way of living. But now you got to be careful, and I'm really going to be careful about what I'm getting ready to say now. There's a certain company that you are well aware of that owns the patent on seeds in this country, and they've been doing this back before at least the 1800s, and they're highly skilled in doing that. And you already know what that company is, a certain letter in the alphabet, and I'm not going to say that, but anyway, what that company is, and you know why. But anyway, they work with the government with chemicals and things like that. Now I don't have evidence of this, but they may have been in on the Tuskegee experiment that they ran for 42 years or whatever.
Yeah,
that's the one that you know about. But you don't know about the other experiments and things that have been done, that are still being done today on us, measuring the effects of different kind of things on us, you see. And they've always done this and kept it hidden, and then want to deny that it was going on. See, this is how they do it. And see, and then they turned us against ourselves, or having other people, prominent people, in certain areas, choosing our leaders for us and all that, you begin to see it in a different perspective when your mind becomes free, like the so-called March on Washington. There's a good, not book, but there's good takes by Malcolm X called The Ballot and the Bullet, or Message to the Grassroots. It's on YouTube. Yes. You can get that and get the full story of why I call it a farce on Washington, march between two dead men, and who was really behind that. And like you had started off this conversation, see, there are people that look like they're for us, and they're not for us, and then they picked our leaders. They picked whoever was going to represent black people, and then told them after it was over to get the hell out of town before sundown. Oh yeah, for $1,500,000. Martin Luther King, A. Philip Randolph, Roy Wilkins, James Farmer. I think there were 2 others that they chose as our leaders to represent black people. See, but it was a farce. It was a game perpetrated and played on us.
So Martin didn't stay a part of the clique. That's why he checked on out.
Well, yeah, and some other stuff. See, there's a whole lot of stuff to keep us divided. Yeah. I don't like you because you're light skinned, or I don't like you because you're dark skinned. Just stupid stuff to keep us far apart, or Or like when Malcolm was killed, they tried to say that the nation did that and all that kind of stuff because of certain kinds of improprieties. But you have certain people and certain, I'll just put it like this, alphabet organizations or organizations that orchestrated the whole thing. Because one of the people that was a part of it did that. Or since you're out in California, the COINTEL programs and all that kind of stuff. Yes. Or the fact that J. Edgar Hoover tried to make sure that he hid his identity. He was a black man. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And then
he looked in his pictures, he looked kind of, dark. He
hey, bro. Dark. Yeah. And see, and like this. There is this is one area, I think it's Fuqua and Bond. They have evidence and showed it that Barack Obama is not the first black president of the United States. Not. I'll tell you exactly who it is. A brother by the name of John Hanson, who is still on the $2 bill, which they took out of basically circulation. A black man. Yeah. In 17 excuse me, I want to say it was after 1776, I believe it was. Anyway, a black man was the first president, maybe it was 1781, anyway, the first president of the United States. Now, technically, you could say George Washington was, but he was number 8 because under the Articles of Confederation of the Continental Congress, John Hanson was chosen as the first as the first president of the United States, and there have been 7 others before Barack Obama got in. But Barack Obama they're making him the first one, and it is absolutely not true. And a lot of people know that, but they will not say that for whatever the reason. And so I almost cringe when I hear somebody say our first black president, because I say, you have a $2 bill on you? And all that kind of thing. See, there's so much stuff in every area of life. And we have even got to what the medical community is all about, the racism there, or stolen lands. Have you ever heard of Seneca Park?
No.
Okay. Oh, excuse me, Seneca Village. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to tell you right now, brother, you have. You just don't know what it was. I'll tell you exactly what it was. It is today Central Park.
Oh, okay.
In New York City. Yeah. See, they claimed they took it over and named it. Black folks lived there. The same way where Arlington Cemetery is. Black folks lived there. I think it was Franklinton Village or whatever. The same way that they took this land from the Africans and from the native people that were here and the Africans, or the Black Hills in what is that, the Mount Rushmore?
Okay, yeah.
The real name of that is the 6 Grandfathers, named after the North, East, South, and West, upper and level. Yeah, look that up. The 6 Grandfathers. That's the name. But somebody like Mount Rushmore and put the faces of all those dead presidents up there. Oh yeah. See, there are so many things, and everybody that's listening to this can look this information up. Can look it up and see. This is what they did. I'm not telling no lie. This is what they did to keep us in a state of confusion. And it has really worked. It has really worked.
Yeah. Well, can I go to the next question?
Yes, you may, sir.
Very, very good. Very good. In your opinion, what is the state of non-white people in the concept of the United States and worldwide?
Confused. Confused because we have chosen to not investigate. See, the Bible says in Hosea 4:6, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. See, the knowledge is there, but we have to uncover this stuff that's been put on us, break it away from that, break away from the education that we got because it was wrong. They lied. You didn't come from no monkey, no tail on you, but they make you believe that. And all that stuff, wonder why it happened and how we can get better. We come from a lineage of kings. As a matter of fact, even before Africa, we are of the lineage of Judah. I hate to say tribe, but of Judah. And guess who was in that tribe? In that line? Guess.
Well,
the Savior.
I know,
the Savior.
They say
the
Savior.
Yeah.
King.
There you go.
King David.
Yeah.
King
there
David.
you go.
Yeah.
There you go. See, but we don't believe
Selassie?
that. We
what
don't.
About Haile Selassie?
It could be. I'm not sure on that.
Right. The Rastafarians say
right.
he was a part of that lineage too.
Right. But see, we don't believe that. See, we do not believe that. We do not believe that thing about it. We don't believe it, and that's a terrible thing. Excuse me. That's a terrible thing because we've been taught not to believe it. See, and that's bad. That's bad. We've been taught in every area. We have been taught that kind of foolishness to keep ourselves under subjection to them, and that's not the way that it's supposed to be. It's not that way.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. Next question.
Yes, sir.
In your opinion, what is the state of non-white male and female relationships?
Okay. Again, the state is a state of confusion because we don't ask the right. In fact, we don't even ask questions, and you should. And the reason why is because if you're going to get together with a sister or a brother, you have to be honest. And people don't want to be honest. See, if you're not honest, that means you're going to hide something or you're going to deceive something. You got to be honest with it and discuss everything. Now, Mr. Fuller suggests asking 130 questions. It might even be 200 questions. But the main thing, if you see a young lady or a young man that you want to, be with, then you got to sit down and be honest and discuss everything. Finances, your thought. What are your thoughts on economics? What is your political aspiration? Labor. What about the law? You got to ask a whole lot of questions. Families, blended families and all that kind. You have a lot of issues. It takes time to work these things and work through these things. For example, when you're going to grow grass seed and you put it out there, do you expect to have a full blade of grass the next day? No. It takes time for that. It has to be watered, nurtured. Dirt has to be thrown on it. Hay and all that kind of stuff. It's got to go through something. We don't want to do nothing. We think we know everything about sex. Now, if sex was powerful to the angels that were kicked out of heaven and came down here and had sex with the women and they produced a Nephilim, that goes to show you how strong that it is. And even in the books of particularly in I think it's the second book of the Book of Enoch, it goes into tremendous detail. I got the audio, get the audio versions. It goes into great detail of the names and their different assignments, what they did and how they taught us the different things. But sex is powerful. It is so powerful. But, we think we know everything about that. And what did Yahweh teach us? He said, train up your children where? In the ways of the Lord. Not in the ways of the world. Yeah. And they won't depart from it. But see, with this, let me tell you what this I'll tell you what this pandemic has done. For example, we think that when you say church, we've been taught that the church is the brick and mortar. I mean, it is a building. No, the church building is nothing but a brick and mortar for the assemblies of people who have like precious faith. So you should do that. But don't you know that you are really the church? The Bible says, "Know ye not that your body is the temple of the Holy Ghost, and that the Spirit of God dwelleth within you." You, my brother, are the church. You are it. So wherever you go, you are the church. I think that's in 1 Corinthians 6:19. I think that is. You are really the church. But we've been taught, I'm going to church. How can you go to church when you already are the church?
Well, see, this is why I always, when I discuss things with people, I have a kind of like, I'm a sort of like Mr. Fuller, and where it's like eclectic, pluralism as far as when it comes to spirituality. People always talk about going out. You have to go in. In my perspective, you have to go in and tap into that source that's already innate You already have everything you need. You just got to go in and get it. Now, I know we use other people because we're interdependent beings. We use other people to learn from and do things because we rely on each other. But you have to go within. You got everything you need. You have everything you need. That's I ascribe to that fully.
Yes, you are. Yeah. But we, like I said, we've been taught. Yeah, that is. I was correct on that. 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 19. See, we've been taught that the church. As soon as you say church, we've been taught subliminally that is a first so and so of Atchison Street or something like that. No, you are it. You are it. See, we don't study the scriptures. As a matter of fact, remember when I brought up earlier in this conversation about the 22 other books that they say that's the Canological Society said that they were lost. Well, they discovered some people, some brothers and sisters in Ethiopia that hadn't had contact with civilization, and one of the things they had was a Bible in there that was predated 800 years before any known Bible that came into existence, and all 88 books were in there, all of them, every single one of them. Yeah, and they got them over to that so-called. And then I got to be careful about this. They got them over into that so-called nation that's on that land that they're claiming as theirs. Yeah. I see what happened before 1948. Yeah, what was there before 1948, and what did they do to them people?
See, I can say it. Israel and Palestine. Talk about it.
Yeah. See,
when I write, I talk about that.
Yeah. And people monitor stuff because they don't want to hear. They don't want you to know the truth. They'll keep that, to protect. And like I said, to protect and serve. Protect and serve what? What are you trying to preserve? You're trying to protect and serve something that you're trying to preserve, which abuses, mistreats, and dominates people. How can that be of God? It's not. It is absolutely not. But that is what's going on now. That's what's going on now, and it continues to go on. But I'm going to tell you something, my brother. When I looked at some of those books like in the Apocrypha, like the book of Jasher, the same things were going on back then. It's the same thing now. Or I had a quest to understand the Tower of Babel, or Babel, whatever you want to say, and how God destroyed that because of what they were going to do. I wanted to see how large that thing was. And when I started doing my research, I just want to say the base of it, just the base from, let's say, from east to west, was almost 70, as we call it in miles, was almost 70 miles long. Now think about the circumference of it. If you were to do say a square, and if you were to do a square 4 times 7, 280 miles around its total base, building up in the air. So much so that Yahweh said he's going to have to destroy it and confuse the language of the people, because before that happened, the people of the world spoke one language. But they were skilled, craftsmen and all that. I understand, I wasn't there, but I understand that when they were putting bricks upon this, and all this information is also, you can get it on the internet when you research that. It took almost a year for bricks to get up to where they were going. 365 days. How about that? To build this thing. And it must have been something if God had to destroy it, because they were going up into heaven. Maybe that was the inspiration for that song, Stairway to Heaven. I don't know. Just saying.
Yes. Okay. I have 2 more questions.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
According to Neely Fuller, all problems can't be resolved until the problem of the system of white supremacy racism is resolved. What are your thoughts about this premise?
It's very significant. That's what Mr. Fuller says, and he stands by that. But I would say this, that if you want to solve the problem, you have to go to the source, whatever the source is. You cannot put Band-Aids on it and expect the problem to be solved. And Mr. Fuller feels that racism, white supremacy, is the number one problem. It's a spirit, and that spirit has to be killed. It just has to be killed. But look at this. Not only does it have to be killed, but you have to replace it. You just can't remove it. It has to be replaced with a system of justice, even if you will, compensatory justice. Or I would say this, you have to turn back. You have to turn back to God. Now, if you want to go biblical about it, then you could go 2 Chronicles 7:14, where Yahweh said this. He said, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves, pray, seek my face, and turn from their wicked ways. Listen to this promise. He said, I will hear from heaven, I will forgive your sin, and I will heal your land. That's what he said. Mm. See, we have to turn away from it, but people don't want to because sin is lucrative. Sin is fun until you find out what it is. But then it might be too late for you then. But that's it right there.
Yes, I'm all about changing myself and my environment. That's what I'm all about.
Yeah, and you're still learning. We're learning every day how to be better, how to be better, and not mistreating somebody. You know, we can't mistreat white people. We can't. You know, how you going to have hate in your heart, you know, for white people, but then you trying to get justice for yourself? It doesn't compute, if you will. It's not going to work.
Yeah, it's not constructive.
Thank you, my
not
brother.
Constructive. Yeah.
Boy, Neely Fuller would love to hear you say that.
Well, you know, that's who I've been listening to for the past a good 5 years, all the time.
Right.
That's how I came up on you. So you know, it's excellent for me. It's excellent, and just talking to you is really, you know, a good thing for me, and hopefully everybody else could see that. Okay, now what can you tell us in general that can contribute to non-white people improving their condition?
Improving? Well, it's like anything. The first thing you have to do, in my opinion, is the scripture says, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added to you. Somebody said, what things? The things that you need, whatever they are. He will do the adding. See, like this, if I were to do, of course you can't see it, but let's just say this. N-O, know God, then you're not going to know God. But if you K-N-O-W, know God, then you will K-N-O-W, know God. See, it's really kind of simple, but see, people don't want to do that because it takes time. Just like it took time for you to be born. You know, there was a gestation period. It takes time, but now everything is so accelerated. Food don't even taste good because we've gotten into artificial stuff. It's not supposed to taste good. You don't know the secrets of seasoning and so forth. Things take time. It takes time to do these things, to get these things right. You are going to make mistakes. That's why when we decided to do this show, I didn't want you to give me questions. I wanted to be so that I could give you honest answers without rehearsing it. Let it be what it be, full of mistakes and whatever, just like life. You know, you do that. You have to do it that way because this isn't Hollywood where you put together and you got script writers and screen directors and all that stuff. No. God has already directed it. And I'm just fulfilling a role and still learning how to do that because I need to be better. I don't know everything. Some people, they're going to hear say, I don't believe nothing. And you know what? And they don't have to. And they shouldn't believe anything that I say unless they check it out for themselves, if they want to check it out. You know, check it out. Yeah, don't believe nothing I say until you check it out and have your own voice, if it's that important to you. You have to challenge yourself. have to challenge yourself, if you will, in the Lord. In the Lord, yes.
All right. So finally,
yes, sir.
Do you want to leave us with something, some parting thoughts?
Well, I hadn't thought about it, but if I were to leave anything, I would say this, that straight is the gate and narrow is the way that leads to eternal life, and few there be that find it. Just follow God, wherever you're at what point in life, just follow Him. Ask Him to help you, to lead you, and to guide you, to instruct you in His way, and you will begin to understand and put life together, and you'll be okay. You know, still learning, but you'll be okay.
Yes, sir. Well, I really appreciate your time, and hopefully I'll be able to collaborate with you more in the future.
Okay.
And then also, can you just stay on the line for a minute while I end the recording?
Okay, sure.